Comic shops. Let's talk about them. Now, I've talked a lot on this channel that comics shops are not probably the best place for most of you to be selling your comics. And, I've never really gone deep on it, so I'm going to go deep as to the reason why. If I asked you who is your comic for, like who would really enjoy your comic, who should if I had your comic and I had to recommend it to somebody, who do you think I should recommend it to? And some of you have no idea who, which you need to work on, but some of you do. And the problem is, I see a big disconnect between who some of you say would really enjoy your comic to who a lot of comic book shops cater to. See, they call comic book shops the direct market, which I think is a ridiculous term, but it's called the direct market. And the thing is, the direct market, in terms of comic book shops, I'm talking about US shops here, are usually catered to fanboys. They're not catered to an all-inclusive place. And those are just the comic shops that are still in existence, that they sell 90%, 80 to 90% of the actual store's comics. Most comic shops in the US are mixed-use stores. They're selling cookies and cakes now. There's a couple comic shops in the city I'm in that now sell beer, and they have a gaming table. Actually, when I looked at how many comics are sold in their store, about 20% of the store space is dedicated to any kind of comic. Everything else is tabletops and gaming, and then there's the bar beer thing that they kind of added onto the shop. And that's what's keeping the doors open of this space. So you're dealing with limited amount of actual comic book shops and a limited amount of space in most of those comic book shops. And then you have the comic book shops that sell mostly comics, but they're not they're not very welcoming place. I mean, I've been in comic shops even here in Houston that did not want me in their comic book shop. Yeah, I should make videos on that. They didn't want me in a comic book shop because that is the reality. I have a comic store owners, because I talk to a lot of them, and they say, well, your demographic is not really, I don't really cater to you. And he was talking about me being black and me being in this particular store. Meanwhile, I should go on a video of me touring these different comic book stores in and around Houston. But that is pretty much relatively the same. Some places are really open and welcome. I find the most open and welcome comic book shops tend to be the ones that sell more than comics than some of the comic book ones, because a lot of them are like the person who started was a fanboy and they wanted to shop and they thought it'd be an easy thing to do for a living, and they're finding out it's not so easy. So, my point is, some of you have wonderful books and stories that the demographic in a lot of these comic book shops, they'll tell you, don't shop there. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about going and having your comic in a comic book shop.